Everyone at Lincoln High thought I was some kind of golden boy, the star player who had it all together. Truth? Half the time I was just faking it. But then he showed up, this clumsy transfer kid who couldn't catch a ball if his life depended on it, and suddenly my whole world tilted sideways. The first time I saw him trip over his own shoelaces during gym class, I laughed harder than I should have. It wasn't cruel, not exactly. It was just so tragically funny. But then he looked up at me, cheeks burning, and something twisted in my chest I didn't know how to name. His name was Ethan. Blonde hair that always seemed one gust away from chaos, pale skin that flushed too easily, and eyes that held too much sadness for someone who was supposed to be just 16. The coach paired him with me, of course he did. Help the new kid out, Carson. You're the team captain. Show some leadership. I hated the way the whole class snickered. To them, Ethan was a lost cause. To me, he was a project. Or at least, that's what I told myself. What I didn't admit, not then, not to anyone, was that every time Ethan stumbled, I wanted to reach out and catch him. And that scared me more than any championship game ever could. Ethan stood awkwardly at the edge of the basketball court, holding the ball like it might explode. His posture screamed discomfort, but he forced a smile when I jogged over. Relax, I told him, grabbing the ball with one hand. It's just a game. He shook his head. Yeah, well, games aren't really my thing. I can tell. The words slipped out before I could stop them. For a second, his smile cracked, and I felt like the world's biggest jerk. But instead of storming off, he chuckled. You're not wrong. Something about that laugh, it was soft, self-deprecating, but real. Not many people laughed like that at Lincoln High. I found myself grinning back. Okay, new rule. No tripping over your own feet. Think you can handle that? He rolled his eyes. I'll try. And just like that, practice began. Helping Ethan was supposed to be simple. Show him the basics, keep him from embarrassing himself too badly, make sure coach was satisfied. But nothing about it was simple. He tried. God, he tried. Every pass was crooked, every dribble too high, every shot way off target. Yet every time he messed up, he looked at me with those determined eyes, and I felt something tighten in my chest. You're supposed to aim, not pray, I teased when his shot bounced off the rim for the 10th time. He glared at me, but his lips twitched. Maybe I'm trying to invent a new sport. Oh yeah? What's it called? Airball. That earned me a laugh, full and unguarded. And I swear the sound echoed inside me long after the gym lights flickered off. But the closer we got, the more dangerous it felt. Because people were watching, and people talk. Rumors at Lincoln spread like wildfire. One week it was about some kid cheating on a math test. The next it was about a girl sneaking out to meet her boyfriend. By Friday it was about me. You're spending a lot of time with the new kid. One of my teammates sneered in the locker room. What's the deal, Carson? He your charity case or something? I didn't answer. My silence was as good as an admission. Another voice chimed in. Or maybe he's more than that, huh? The laughter that followed was sharp, cutting. I clenched my fists until my knuckles turned white. I told myself it didn't matter, that I was just helping him, nothing more. But then Ethan caught me looking at him differently. Too long, too soft, and I knew I was lying. One night after practice, we stayed behind. The gym was empty, the air thick with that musty smell of sweat and wood polish. Why are you helping me? Ethan asked suddenly, sitting cross-legged on the floor, his hair damp with sweat. You don't owe me anything. You could have just let me crash and burn. I shrugged, pretending to be casual. Because coach told me to. Bullshit. His voice was quiet, but firm. You don't spend hours after school just because coach said so. I froze. His eyes met mine, steady and searching, and for the first time I couldn't look away. The truth balanced on the tip of my tongue, terrifying and inevitable. Maybe I began, my voice rough. Maybe I just like being around you. Ethan's breath hitched. He didn't laugh. He didn't look away. He just sat there, staring at me like I was something fragile and dangerous at the same time. And in that moment, the world outside didn't exist. Just him. Just me. Just the electricity between us, sparking like wildfire in the dark. But life has a cruel way of reminding you that moments like that can't last. The next morning, someone scrawled on Ethan's locker in red marker, "Freak." By lunchtime, whispers followed him everywhere. Some of them glanced at me too. He tried to play it off, shoulders stiff, pretending it didn't matter. But I saw it in his eyes, the hurt, the exhaustion. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing his laugh, his voice, the way he'd looked at me in the gym. And I knew, with a sinking kind of clarity, that I was standing at a crossroads. If I kept my distance, maybe things would die down. Maybe the whispers would fade. But if I didn't, if I stood by him, everything I'd built, my reputation, my image, my so-called golden boy life, could come crashing down. But maybe that was the point. Because for the first time, what I wanted wasn't trophies or applause. It was him. The next few days were a blur of tension. Ethan barely spoke in class. His shoulders hunched like he was carrying invisible weights. People whispered when he walked past, sometimes snickering, sometimes outright muttering words that burned like acid. I hated it. I hated the way everyone treated him, like he was disposable, like he was nothing. But more than that, I hated myself for not standing up sooner. At lunch, I found him sitting at the far end of the cafeteria, away from everyone else. His tray was barely touched. He kept poking at his mashed potatoes like the fork was just an excuse to keep his hands busy. I sat down across from him without asking. He looked up, startled. "Carson, what are you doing here?" "Eating," I said simply, unwrapping my sandwich. His brow furrowed. "You know people are staring, right? Let them." I bit into the sandwich like I didn't care, but inside, my chest was pounding. Ethan's lips parted, like he wanted to argue. But instead he closed his mouth and shook his head with a tiny smile. "You're impossible." "Maybe," I grinned. "But at least I'm consistent." Something flickered in his eyes then. Something warm, fragile, hopeful. And for the first time since this mess started, I saw him relax, just a little. After that day, I made it my mission to keep him close. If people wanted to talk, let them talk. I'd walk beside him in the hallways, sit with him in class, partner with him in gym. But every act of defiance only fueled the whispers. By Friday, it wasn't just whispers anymore. We were in the locker room after practice when Marcus, one of the seniors on the basketball team, cornered me. "You seriously hanging out with that guy?" His voice dripped disdain. I kept my tone steady. "Yeah. So what?" Marcus sneered. "So what? He's a joke, Carson. He doesn't belong here. And you're supposed to be the one we all look up to. You think it looks good, dragging him around like some lost puppy?" Heat crawled up my neck. "He's not a puppy. He's my friend." The word hung heavy in the air, friend. It didn't feel like enough, but it was all I could give without setting the room on fire. Marcus stepped closer, eyes hard. "Careful, Captain. People are starting to wonder." I didn't back down. "Let them." The silence stretched until Marcus finally scoffed and stormed out, slamming his locker so hard the metal rattled. I sat on the bench, breathing hard, adrenaline still humming in my veins, and all I could think was, friend. Was that really what Ethan was to me? Or was I just too scared to admit the truth? That weekend, I found myself at Ethan's house. He'd invited me over after practice, though his voice carried that hesitant edge like he half expected me to say no. But I didn't. I wanted to be there. His house was small compared to mine. a modest two-story with peeling paint and a yard that hadn't seen a lawnmower in weeks. Inside, it smelled faintly of cinnamon and laundry detergent. Ethan led me upstairs to his room. It was simple: bed, desk, a couple of posters on the wall. One of them was a faded movie poster for The Breakfast Club. I smirked. Seriously? That old movie? He grinned, a little sheepishly. Don't judge. I like stories where misfits find a way to belong. The words hit me harder than they should have. We ended up sitting on the floor, playing some old video game on his beat-up console. For once, he was good at something. He destroyed me in every round, laughing so hard tears formed in the corners of his eyes. "You're terrible at this," he gasped between laughs. "Shut up," I groaned, throwing the controller down. "This is rigged." His laughter softened into something quieter. He looked at me, really looked at me, and my chest tightened. For a long moment, neither of us moved. The air between us felt charged, like the whole room was holding its breath. Then his smile faltered. "Carson, why are you really here?" I blinked. "I told you. You're my friend." His eyes searched mine. "That's it." The question lingered, heavy and unspoken. I opened my mouth, but no words came out, because the truth, the real truth, terrified me. So I did the only thing I could. I reached for the controller again, forcing a grin. "Rematch. This time I'm not going easy on you." Ethan's gaze lingered on me for a beat longer before he laughed softly and picked up his controller. But I knew, deep down, I knew we were standing on the edge of something neither of us could pretend away much longer. By Monday, things got worse. Someone had snapped a photo of me and Ethan walking home together, our shoulders brushing, both of us laughing at some private joke. By morning, the photo was plastered all over social media with captions that cut deep. "Lincoln's golden boy has a boyfriend?" The comments ranged from cruel jokes to outright slurs. When I saw it, my stomach twisted. Ethan avoided my eyes all day, his face pale, his shoulders hunched lower than ever. After school, I caught up to him at his locker. "Ethan, don't." His voice cracked, but he didn't look at me. "You don't have to pretend anymore. I know this is too much." Anger flared in me. Not at him, but at the world that made him believe that. "Pretend." My voice rose despite myself. "You think I'm pretending? That I don't?" I stopped myself just in time, words tangling in my throat. His eyes finally met mine, and the pain in them nearly shattered me. "I don't want you to get hurt because of me," he whispered. I stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the tremor in his breath. "Maybe it's not about what I want. Maybe it's about who I want." His lips parted, but before either of us could say more, someone down the hall shouted, "Hey, lovebirds!" The laughter that followed was cruel, echoing like knives. Ethan flinched. I turned, my fists clenched, ready to fight, but Ethan grabbed my wrist. "Don't, please." His voice was so raw, so pleading, that I forced myself to stop. Instead, I pulled him out of the building, away from the stairs, into the cool evening air. We stood there, both of us shaking for different reasons. "Carson," he said softly, "you can't fix this." I looked at him, really looked at him, and something inside me snapped. "I don't want to fix it," I said. "I just want you." And before I could think, before fear could claw me back, I leaned in and kissed him. It was clumsy, desperate, like everything we'd been holding back had finally exploded. His lips were soft, trembling against mine, and for a heartbeat, the whole world went silent. When we pulled apart, his eyes were wide, shimmering with disbelief. "Carson," I pressed my forehead to his, breathing hard. I'm not going anywhere. Not now, not ever. He let out a shaky laugh, half sob, half relief, and for the first time, I saw hope shining through the cracks of his fear. But hope, I would learn, wasn't enough to stop the storm that was coming. The kiss should have been the beginning of something good. It felt like it, standing there in the cool air outside Lincoln High, his breath mixing with mine, our hands trembling but not letting go. But reality has a way of slamming back harder than you're ready for. By the next morning, it wasn't just rumors. It was war. Someone had filmed it, our kiss. Grainy, shaky footage from across the parking lot, but clear enough to see. By dawn, the video had spread through every group chat in the school. Walking through the hallways felt like walking through fire. Heads turned. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Phones were angled toward me like weapons, like they wanted to catch another glimpse of the golden boy's downfall. Ethan didn't even make it through first period. I found him in the bathroom, sitting on the floor by the sinks, his knees pulled tight to his chest. "They're never going to let this go," he muttered, voice flat. I crouched beside him, ignoring the way the tiles were cold against my knees. "So what? Let them talk." His eyes lifted to mine. Brimming with tears he refused to let fall. "You don't get it, Carson. You're strong. People respect you. Me? I'm nothing to them. This is going to break me." The words gutted me, because he believed them, because some part of him truly thought he was worthless. I reached out, tilting his chin up so he had no choice but to look at me. "You're not nothing. You're everything My voice cracked, and I swallowed hard. "You're everything I want." For a moment, neither of us moved. Then, slowly, his shoulders loosened, and he let out a breath that sounded like surrender. "Then you're going to have to fight for me," he whispered. "I will," I promised. And I meant it, even if I had no idea how. By lunchtime, the whispers had turned into open taunts. "Hey Carson, when's the wedding?" someone jeered as we passed. "Didn't know you swung that way, Captain," another voice chimed in, dripping with fake sweetness. Ethan's face burned red, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. I wanted to punch every single one of them, but fighting wouldn't fix this. Fighting would only prove them right, that I was volatile, reckless, out of control. So instead, I held my head high and kept walking, Ethan beside me. But the damage was already spreading. Coach called me into his office after practice. His expression was tight, controlled, but his eyes betrayed something darker. "Carson," he began, "you know I don't care what you do in your personal life, but the team, this school, people talk. And when they talk, it reflects on us." I stared at him, incredulous. "You're seriously saying this is bad for the team?" "I'm saying," he replied carefully, "that distractions are bad for the team." The implication landed like a punch. I leaned forward, my voice low but sharp. "Ethan isn't a distraction. He's a person. And if you think I'm going to just, drop him to make everyone else comfortable, you don't know me at all." Coach's jaw tightened. For a moment I thought he was going to bench me then and there, but instead he sighed. "Just keep it off the court, Carson. That's all I'm asking." I left his office seething, my hands shaking with the urge to break something. That night Ethan called me. His voice was small, tentative. "Maybe they're right," he whispered. "Don't," I said sharply. "Don't you dare say that. You're losing everything because of me. Your teammates, your coach, your reputation. I don't care about any of that." I exploded, louder than I meant to. Silence followed on the other end, heavy and fragile. I took a breath, softer this time. "The only thing I care about is you. Don't you get that?" There was a long pause, and then I heard him sniffle. "You're crazy," he murmured. But there was warmth in his voice now, a shaky smile hidden behind the words. Yeah, I admitted. Crazy about you. But love wasn't enough to stop the storm. The following week, things escalated. Someone shoved Ethan into a locker hard enough to leave a bruise. Another time, his books were scattered across the hallway, pages ripped, while kids laughed. I tried to protect him, but I couldn't be everywhere. Every time I saw him flinch, every time I saw the hurt in his eyes, it killed me a little more. Finally, one afternoon, I'd had enough. We were in the gym, just the two of us. He was practicing free throws, missing more than he made, his shoulders slumping lower with every miss. Stop, I said suddenly. He turned, confused. What? Stop pretending like this doesn't bother you. Stop letting them win. His face tightened. What do you want me to do, Carson? Punch everyone who laughs at me? Scream at the whole school? That's not me. No, I said, stepping closer, my voice fierce. But you could stand tall. You could show them that you're not afraid to exist. Because you're not weak, Ethan. You're the strongest person I know. His eyes widened, shimmering with unshed tears. For a long moment he just stared at me. Then, quietly, he whispered, You really believe that? I don't just believe it, I said, my throat thick. I know it. And then, right there in the empty gym, he leaned forward and kissed me again. This time it wasn't clumsy. It wasn't hesitant. It was fire. When we pulled apart, both of us were breathless, but his smile was brighter than I'd ever seen. Okay, he said, then I'll fight. With you. The fight came sooner than we expected. The next day, during lunch, Marcus, the same teammate who'd confronted me before, stood up on a table and shouted across the cafeteria. Hey Carson, why don't you kiss your boyfriend again for us? Might as well give us all a show. The room erupted in laughter. Ethan froze beside me, his face pale, my hands curled into fists, my whole body vibrating with rage. But instead of backing down, I stood up. The room went silent as I climbed onto the table opposite Marcus. My heart pounded, my voice steady but loud enough to carry. You want a show? I shouted. Fine. And before I could think, before fear could choke me, I pulled Ethan to his feet and kissed him. Right there, in front of everyone. Gasps filled the room. Some kids cheered, others jeered, but none of it mattered. All that mattered was Ethan's lips on mine, his hands clutching my shirt like he was holding on for dear life. When I pulled back, I turned to the crowd. Yeah, he's my boyfriend. Got a problem with that. Silence. Heavy. Stunned. Marcus's face twisted in fury, but he didn't say a word. He just stormed out, the laughter dying in his wake. I looked down at Ethan. His eyes were wide, his cheeks flushed, but for the first time, I saw pride shining through the fear. You're insane, he whispered. Yeah, I said, grinning, but now everyone knows you're mine. And for the first time since this whole mess started, he laughed. Not the self-deprecating laugh, not the broken one. A real laugh. Full. Free. Of course, I knew it wasn't over. Things would get harder before they got better. But in that moment, with Ethan's hand in mine and the whole school staring, I didn't care. For once, I wasn't the golden boy. I wasn't the captain. I wasn't the kid everyone expected me to be. I was just Carson. And I was in love. The cafeteria kiss set fire to everything. For a moment, it felt invincible, like we had seized control of the narrative, like we had ripped the power away from the whispers and claimed it for ourselves. But the truth is, bravery comes with consequences, and consequences come fast. By the time I got home that night, My phone was exploding with notifications. My dad was waiting in the living room, arms crossed, face pale with barely controlled fury. "Sit," he ordered. I dropped my backpack, my chest tightening as I sat on the couch. He didn't waste words. "What the hell were you thinking?" I clenched my fists. "I was thinking I'm tired of hiding, tired of pretending." His jaw worked. "You're throwing away everything. Your future, your team, your reputation. For some boy? For Ethan?" I shot back, my voice sharp. "Not just some boy. For him." Silence stretched between us. His eyes, usually steady and firm, looked almost scared. "You don't understand," he muttered finally. "This isn't how things are done here. People won't accept it." I stood, my whole body shaking, but not with fear, with conviction. "Then maybe it's time they learn how." I walked out before he could answer. My hands were trembling, but my heart felt lighter than it ever had. Ethan's family reacted differently. His mom welcomed me with cautious kindness, her smile small but genuine when Ethan introduced me as more than just a friend. His little sister teased us relentlessly, whispering, "Finally!" every time we so much as glanced at each other. His father was quieter, reserved, his eyes heavy with unspoken worries. But he didn't forbid it. He didn't push Ethan away. And for that, Ethan told me later, he was grateful. It struck me then. Love wasn't always about loud declarations. Sometimes it was about quiet acceptance. School wasn't easy after the cafeteria. Some people were crueler than ever, but others surprised me. A few teammates stood by me, telling Marcus to shut up when he tried to start something. Teachers looked at us differently, not disapproving but protective, like they finally understood the weight we carried. And then there were the quiet nods in the hallway. Kids I barely knew, kids who never spoke up before, meeting my eyes with something like respect. Like maybe, just maybe, we weren't fighting alone. Ethan still struggled. There were days when he wanted to disappear, when the weight of every stare was too much. But every time, I was there, holding his hand under the table, walking him home, reminding him that he wasn't fighting this battle by himself. One night, while we lay on the grass in his backyard staring up at the stars, he whispered, "You make me brave." I turned to him, brushing a strand of hair from his face. "No, you already were. You just needed someone to remind you." The real turning point came at the championship game. The stands were packed, the gym buzzing with energy. My whole team was tense, the pressure suffocating. Marcus, still simmering with resentment, muttered under his breath as we warmed up, "Don't screw this up, lover boy." I ignored him, because when I glanced into the crowd, I saw Ethan, sitting with his sister, his mom, even his dad. His eyes met mine, shining with a mixture of fear and pride, and suddenly, everything else faded. The game was brutal. Every muscle screamed, every breath burned. But I played harder than I ever had, not for the crowd, not for the trophy, but for the boy in the stands who believed in me. When the final buzzer sounded, we had won. The crowd erupted, my teammates rushing the court. But all I saw was Ethan. I ran straight to him, ignoring the cameras, the cheers, the whispers, and in front of the entire school, I pulled him into my arms and kissed him. This time, no one laughed. The roar of the crowd was deafening. Not jeers, but cheers. Some were confused, some reluctant, but others clapped and whistled, as if something had shifted, as if courage could be contagious. That night, as we sat on the bleachers after everyone had left, Ethan leaned against me, his head resting on my shoulder. "You know this doesn't mean everything's fixed," he murmured. "People are still going to talk. Life's still going to be hard." "I know." I tightened my arm around him. "But it's easier when you're not alone." He tilted his head up, his eyes catching the glow of the stadium lights. "Do you ever regret it? Choosing me?" I smiled, brushing my lips against his hair. "Not for a second." Months later, spring rolled in, and with it came change. Whispers didn't disappear overnight, but they grew quieter. The stares became less sharp, and slowly people stopped seeing us as a scandal and started seeing us as just us. Ethan grew bolder. He laughed louder in class, joined conversations at lunch, even signed up for a school art project. He wasn't the clumsy, timid boy who'd walked into Lincoln High anymore. He was stronger, brighter. And me? I stopped pretending. I stopped playing the golden boy everyone wanted me to be. I was just Carson, captain of the team, son of a complicated father, and boyfriend to the boy who had changed everything. The last day of school, Ethan and I walked across the empty football field, the summer sun painting the world gold. "Remember when we first met?" he asked, smiling faintly. "You thought I was hopeless." I chuckled. "You kind of were." He elbowed me, mock offended. "And now?" I stopped walking, pulling him close until our foreheads touched. "Now I know you're the best thing that's ever happened to me." His breath hitched, his eyes shining. "You're such a sap." "Maybe," I admitted, grinning, "but you love it." And as he kissed me under the fading light, I realized something simple but undeniable. This wasn't just a high school romance. This was the beginning of a life worth fighting for. Together. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.